do this work. So I think that's actually a great learning example right there. So thank you. Anybody else? Hey, thank you so much. When we get to the board business here in a little bit, I'll share more about how this connects to the superintendent evaluation process that we're getting ready to kick off as well. So with that, we will move to the Business Services and Labor Relations report. First up tonight is the March financial report. So we welcome May Hawkins to the microphone.
Sorry about that. So good evening, Chair and board members. So while William's getting my presentation up, before I begin my March monthly report, I wanted to remind you about an annual audit requirement. So Jim Eichten at MMKR, our auditing firm, is required by governmental accounting standards to send a letter, audit planning letter to each member of the board before the audit begins. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that because I didn't want you to get a letter in the mail from the auditor and you go, oh, what is this? Okay, so it's just a letter letting you know how they're going to be planning for the audit. Okay. 1 second. Okay.
I'll take advantage of the time and do a reminder now that I was going to do at the end, which is we have our annual conflict of interest form as board members to fill out right here on the table. So if you're able and willing to do that tonight and leave it here, that would be a huge help.
Yeah, let's go to the auditor too. So, yeah. Appreciate your patience. She's having to go back in time. So I apologize that I was not able to deliver this report on May 11th as I had planned. But we'll get it done now. So this is the first one that I'm actually doing a PowerPoint presentation with to try, right? So we're always looking for how do we improve our financial reporting.
Which you already do very well.
So I'll do a little reminder that all of our monthly reports are on a cash basis and that as you can see on tonight's agenda, the monthly reports come to you in 2 different formats, right? So you did the April on the consent agenda and the March is the end of a quarter. At each end of quarter, I do a live presentation. Not finding it? You don't have it? Can I link in and?
Sure.
I just sent it to you on. So believe it or not, we're already at the end of the 3rd quarter here for the school district. I know. Here we go. Hurrah. All right. So this is the March financials report. So our revenues were at 63.9% of budget. That is between the prior 2 years, and the total revenues as of the end of March were 70,831,000. All of these numbers, I will remind you, are without the construction funds, because otherwise when we compare to prior years, the construction funds make it so we're not comparing apples and apples. Okay. The expenditures were at 69,435,818, which is 63% of the budget, and that's slightly below the prior 2 years. The next slide here talks about our investments. So we have 2 investment categories right now because we have our construction investment as well. So this slide is going to show you the activity. So starting with what was the balance the board had at the prior months, we had 23,709,655. We earned $5,820.73 of interest. We needed 4.5 million for cash flow. So at the end of March, our regular investments were 19,265,486.26. For the construction bonds, we had 4,704,067.37, and that also earned, oh, I'm sorry, the interest earned was 55,000 on the other funds. The LTFM earned 55,35.59, so it's currently at 4,709,601.96 as the end of March. Cash was above the prior 2-year March balances. This slide is going to summarize our disbursements and our donations. So our disbursements totaled $7,455,035.41. And you can see on the slide there the breakdown between what went through accounts payable and what went through payroll for those disbursements. For donations, we had $295 for West Suburban Scholarships and $200 donated to the Ann Bremer Education Center student clubs. Then on our average daily membership reports in comparison to budget. So for our alternative learning centers, our ADMs in March were 232 students. That's 9 students over budget and 7 students above prior year. Our NSO ADMs were at 848 students at the end of March. If you look at the end of April, it's higher than that. That was 42 students below budget and 114 students above last year. Per Minnesota statute for our supplemental online program, our revenue is based on 88% of those ADMs. For the Career and Technical Pathways program, we had 62 ADMs at the end of March. That was 15 under our budget and 18 below last year. For special ed, we had 467 ADMs, which is 9 ADMs over our budget for this year and 31 ADMs higher than what we had last year. In our care and treatment programs, we had 114 ADMs, which is 15 ADMs over budget and 3 ADMs higher than last year. Are there any questions before the board approves the March report?
I like the PowerPoint format. It was helpful to see. Any questions or comments on the report? Go ahead, Michael.
You want to go back to the last item? So looking at the ADMs across the 5 different categories, if I might ask, is there a budgetary preference in terms of which bucket you would rather see a higher budget comparison than another one, or do they really don't matter based on cost, expense, revenue that comes from? Here, come sit here. Michelle's not here.
There's a spot for her right there.
Or over
The
there.
other corner.
Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, your question does make sense. I'm just trying to figure out how to answer it, right? So yes, there are some areas that generate more revenue per student than other areas, right?
Or have a
Um,
higher expense, meaning that like
But yes,
care and
there's
treatment
also
might
a
have
higher
and
expense.
so on and so forth.
Yes.
And in terms of where our revenues are versus the expense. I'm not advocating that we want to advocate for more or less in any one category. It's
Mhm.
more from a budgetary standpoint, the financial impact of the category. That's where my question was trying to go towards.
I would guess special education is the
Yeah.
one that per pupil cost would be the highest.
Mhm.
And it's what we do. It's one of the things we do. So we're really good at it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we could entertain a motion to approve the March 2023 finance report. We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by Heidi Marty. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and the financial report is approved. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
May.
Thank you.
Next up, we have 3 items in our human resources report. All of them are the resolutions that we get this time of year related to staffing. So Ann is going to present the items for our consideration.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. So the first resolution is the probationary licensed teacher non-renewal resolution.
Is there any? Okay.
Nope.
The details are in our packet so that you can see them in board book. So with that, we could entertain a motion to waive the reading and approve the probationary licensed teacher non-renewal resolution.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by Ann Casey. Again, this is a essentially routine annual item that is part of all districts in the planning process. So it's not something that any of us enjoy doing, but understand is part of our work and responsibility as a board. So are there any final questions or comments?
I just want to echo what you said, that
Yep.
we just did this on Tuesday, and it is a thing that I think all of our districts do every year, and it is probably one of the least pleasant. And I am grateful that here, as well as in probably most of our districts, that we waive the reading. It's much more humane. We don't need to call folks out. So thank you for that. And
Any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. So our clerk, Shannon Andreessen, will pull the board.
Sorry, I was not prepared for that. Jackie Mosquito Jones.
Aye.
Michael Birdman,
Hi.
Shannon Andreessen, aye. Crystal Brackey.
Hi.
Ann Casey.
Aye.
Ruthie Dallas,
Aye.
Heidi Marty.
Aye.
Renee Bowman,
Hi.
Kim Ross,
Aye.
resolution passes.
Thank you. So we move to our next resolution. Go ahead, Ann.
So the next resolution is the probationary non-licensed employee non-renewal resolution. And what I should have said earlier when you invited me to say something was that we have a very involved process for making these decisions. We take them very seriously. And we get input from a variety of people, not just the building principal who supervises these folks, but also the admin team and others with knowledge of people's work performance. And so it's quite an involved process. We start in January and obviously don't bring the decisions to the board until May. So it's a very considered process, thoughtful process.
Thank you for that context. Appreciate that. With that, we could entertain a motion to waive the reading and approve the probationary non-licensed employee non-renewal resolution.
Second.
We have a motion by Michael Birdman and a second by Ruthie Dallas. Any final discussion or comments? Okay, Shannon, will you pull the board again?
Yes, thank you. Shannon Andreessen, aye. Michael Birdman,
Hi.
Renee Bowman,
Hi.
Crystal Brackey,
Aye.
Ann Casey.
Aye.
Ruthie Dallas,
Aye.
Heidi Marty,
Aye.
Jackie Mosquito Jones,
Aye.
and Kim Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then our final resolution this evening, go ahead.
The temporary license tier 1, tier 2, and out of field teacher position resolution. And just for the board's knowledge, many of these employees will apply for jobs as they become open. And as you probably know from your own districts, if we're not able to hire someone who is fully licensed in such as a tier 4, then we are able to consider other applicants. And many of these folks have wonderful experience with us and do very well with our students.
Thank you. I think that's really important to acknowledge. So with that, we could entertain a motion to approve the temporary licensed tier 1, tier 2, and out of field teacher position resolution.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Heidi Marty and a second by Ann Casey. Any final comments or discussion? Shannon, will you pull the board?
Yes. Shannon Andreessen, aye. Michael Bergman,
Aye.
Renee Bowman,
Aye.
Crystal Brackey,
Aye.
Ann Casey,
Aye.
Ruthie Dallas,
Aye.
Heidi Marty,
Aye.
Jackie Mosqueda Jones, and Kim Ross.
Aye.
Resolution passes.
Thank you, Shannon. And thank you, Anne, for the work that you and your team do to steward the district through this process, but also with care for our staff members. We appreciate it. Thank you. So we have arrived at the board business section of the agenda. There are just a few things that I have on my list to share. We already touched on the conflict of interest form. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about is just a reminder of the superintendent evaluation timeline. Marcy shared this evening the update on her Uber goal, her big goal for the year. And so following this meeting, I am going to send an email out to the board that contains a link to the superintendent evaluation, which is rooted in our board superintendent evaluation procedure. So in that evaluation form, you will have a link to the presentation from this evening, to a document that just contains some additional information about the work that the superintendent has done this year, and a link to that superintendent evaluation procedure. So you have them all in one place, along with the questions that we're asking you to fill out in alignment with that procedure. So hopefully that helps make it very streamlined and clear for all of you to complete. My ask is that you do so by the end of the day on Wednesday, June 7th, so that I have time to compile and really synthesize for our closed session to hold the superintendent evaluation at our meeting on Thursday, June 8th. And then we will do our public summary of that evaluation on Thursday, June 23rd at our meeting then. So hopefully that is helpful. Feel free to get in touch with me directly if you have any questions as you think about or begin work on the superintendent's evaluation. The next item, the AMSD report. I think I really wanted to actually pause here for a minute because obviously the session has ended and there was a lot that happened in the education space. So I'm going to ask Superintendent Dowd to share a little bit about the 287 priorities this legislative session and where they ended up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You all know it was a wonderful session for public education. And I have to say specifically for intermediates, it's historically, it'll be one of those where we'll be talking about forever. Because all of our intermediate priorities that we put out testified, and all those that testified around the table, thank you. We got every single one on at the end, on the bill, every single one. So talking about proactive safe schools, I testified on behalf of Intermediate District 287. And so you'll see the funding coming through safe schools. Specifically, there'll be something around mental health for intermediates only, as well as for other districts. One thing that was a big thing for us as we provide support and care and treatment is that extended time revenue was part of that, so that we could fund. That went through. We wanted to really talk about some of the disparities in access and funding between care and treatment and ALCs. And so thank you for districts that do transport, but not every district is required to transport, and there is no reimbursement for it. There now is reimbursement for accessing ALCs. And so we really hope that will increase our attendance of students in our ALC program. There was something specific for career in tech. And so we are also investing in a CTE coordinator. I've been meeting with superintendents, our member superintendents, and talking about how can we rebuild and what are you looking for in career and tech or post-secondary? And we are now talking, Eden Prairie is a great example where we're the summer building curriculum together and then talking about how we're part of their pathway. We talked about increased funding in just the state aid that comes to intermediate districts. So we don't have we don't get cross subsidy aid, right? That goes to the resident district and that's part of our bill is part of your cross subsidy. But what we have noticed is that intermediates are not getting enough initial aid, special ed aid to support the expenses. It's very much like traditional districts. So we are going to get a per pupil allocation above and beyond traditional districts for special education aid, which was just wonderful. You saw for all districts, the Grow Your Own. Tanya and the teaching and learning team have really been talking about teacher apprenticeships, talking about how we can collaborate together, how we can support member districts in the pathway, because building a Grow Your Own, it's not easy. And you really do need the economy of scale of people to participate. So we've been entering into conversations about how we can do that together. And so just overall, I mean, a big thing for just special education that I have to say in the state of Minnesota, this is more my soapbox, besides the cross subsidy, was third-party billing for social workers. And so that is something that in special education, we have been lobbying for years and it passed. And so that was a huge one for us. And the other big one in special education is that transition is extended to age 22. So we talked to all the intermediates, had a call today just to talk about what does that mean for the intermediates. May's crunching the numbers and we still have more to learn from the Minnesota Department of Education, but just want to thank Valerie Joslin and her work. It was the first time where we heard representatives saying school districts and intermediates.
Yep.
And that is a lot of her work and Superintendent Sandy Lewandowski's work in making sure that everybody understood what an intermediate is. And so we just said to Valerie, what are you going to do now? Because you got 100% on this last one. So we'll see. But really grateful. And you'll see in my newsletter just a few shout outs to representatives and senators that carry bills specifically for intermediates. And I sent a thank you on behalf of District 287. Please feel free to, when you see my newsletter, do the same.
Thank you. Questions or comments just about any of that goodness and happiness that was shared?
I have a quick question. Extending the transition age to 22, is that permanent?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I know they were talking about it just because of COVID, but
Yep, no, it's actually in statute now. The conversation, the way it's written right now, we'll see clarity by the Minnesota Department of Education, but it says on their 22nd birthday. It doesn't have the July 1st school year language. That's all been removed. So we'll get a little bit more clarity about what does that mean and look like. So is it abrupt at 22? Is it the rest of the school year? Those are conversations, but it's long. It's exciting.
So you mentioned after we see your newsletter, are you going to be sending us like those kind of high level things?
Yep.
Great.
They're all LinkedIn for you to look at. I just pulled out the intermediates. There's things that are happening that all public schools get that we will too, and some we won't for like cross subsidy. That's not something that intermediates receive in revenue, but that is LinkedIn for you to review. It's a lot of information. And we're still unpacking quite a bit of it.
Yeah, if I may, that kind of summation that you just did for us, if you were able, if that's either in the newsletter or something that you can provide, that's basically the presentation I'd like to make at my next board meeting.
Perfect.
So,
Yes, you'll have a document that links all of it and
Love.
spells it out.
Great. Any other comments or questions related to that? Well, if that wasn't enough, I certainly want to invite everyone to tomorrow morning's AMSD Board of Directors meeting at 7:30 a.m. in person or in Zoom, because 95% of the time is going to be talking about the outcomes of the legislative session. with Adosh Uni, who leads government relations for the Department of Education. And I think it's Kathy Erickson. I'm worried I have the wrong, is it Kathy
think
Erickson?
so.
Who is basically the finance genius for the Department of Education. And so they are going to be talking a lot. I heard that the original PowerPoint was over 100 slides. We'll see where it ends up, of just because there have been that many changes. And so if you like to geek out on that stuff, tomorrow morning is where you want to be, because they're going to be, presenting the highlights and then taking some questions, assuming we have the time, about just what this means for all of us. And if you would like a invite to that or the Zoom link, let me know and I'd be glad to forward it to you after the meeting. The final thing I wanted to call out is in the calendar and schedule section. Just please make sure that if you are able to attend graduation events, which are pretty much all taking place the week of, what is that, the 5th? To make sure Wendy knows so that the team at the schools is aware that we are going to be there. I know I have a very full calendar that week of things I'm so excited about, just because there are so many great things that are going to be taking place, both during the day and some ceremonies that are in the evening. So hopefully at least one will work for everybody.
Was that sent to us?
I
The-
believe
the dates
Juanine,
and everything?
yep, she sent a Google form, but we can resend it to you to make sure that you get it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, with that, we are already at once around the table for the evening, as far as updates that people would like to share with each other. Go ahead, Anne.
I did not want us to leave tonight without acknowledging that today is the 3rd anniversary of the police murder of George Floyd. Mr. Floyd was our neighbor in St. Louis. He lived in St. Louis Park. And today I was honored to be able to join some students, many students at St. Louis Park High School who are part of our Students Organized for Anti-Racism group, which is a formal group that meets throughout the school year. And they, the students planned and executed a program, a discussion, a courageous conversation really for each other and for students who they invited who are not part of SOAR, and then for some adults in the community who got to attend as well. And they invited a lot of reflection on questions like, what is performative activism? How did your life change after George Floyd was murdered? What have you done since then? And then we had 8 minutes and 46 seconds to reflect on that in silence. So I know you all didn't come to have one needs to be in agreement to have a courageous conversation. We didn't come for that tonight. So, but I would ask you all to maybe reflect on those questions on your own. And I also want to say that it was, I mean, obviously a weighty and profound experience. And I was so proud of and grateful for our students for the leadership that they showed, the care they showed for each other and for their community and for our neighbor, George Floyd. So I didn't want to walk away without acknowledging that tonight for all of us. And I hope that those of you who this brings up trauma, please take care of yourselves tonight.
Thank you so much.
I just want to acknowledge that our district received the Grow Your Own grants too, one for the staff and one for the students. So looking forward to a lot of exciting activity in that area.
That's fantastic.
Yay.
Congrats to Brooklyn.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Yeah,
Good,
didn't
good.
get it the first time that time.
But you got it now.
I'm guessing that Heather did share that we are going to have a new superintendent in Osseo area schools. Maybe she didn't.
I think somebody did. I don't remember if it was Heather.
So I'm very excited to have a new superintendent, Osseo area schools, Dr. Kim Heil from Fridley, and she will be the first African-American superintendent of Osseo area schools. And I am so proud to have been part of that experience. It was amazing and beautiful. And it was also amazing that all 5 finalists were female doctors.
Wow.
They're all doctorate female. And the last 2 candidates were both female of color. So I was very excited about that.
And because you're too modest to say it,
Right.
appreciation to you as the chair for stewarding your board through that process.
Oh.
That is a significant amount of time and energy. And so gratitude to you for taking that on for your community.
Thank you. It was an endeavor. I feel like an expert now. I also was part of Northwest Suburban Integration School District hiring their executive director. So I have been through this process now 4 times. So
Wow.
if anybody needs any advice.
We're going to have you on speed dial. All right. Anything else for this evening? Thank you so much to everybody for being here and just for all that you continue to do to show up for our students and for our staff here at Intermediate District 287. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion by Shannon Andreessen and a second by Michael Birdman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye and we are adjourned at 7:22 PM.
Wow. Thank you. What was the date of the retreat again?
The 15th.
June.
June, yep. And I think,
One decision invite.
yeah, there's a Google invite that you'll get.
That I will do. Yeah, so I have it.